I don't know. I mean, maybe it's splitting hairs.
I thought Patty was trying to say something. I was just waiting.
No.
I do feel like we're going in a circle.
Yes,
well,
if I was going to say something, that would have been what I would say.
Yeah, and we might have gotten as far as we can get. I mean, finally, whatever specific suggestions I made, the suggestions are all geared towards one thing. To seeing that ArtPrize is treating people with dignity, that the people who are doing the most work. I mean, I don't have any worries. Like, I'm not sitting here advocating for Grand Rapids local businesses because I guarantee you they're taking care of themselves, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not worried about, like, the ArtPrize workers, like, that in your offices, like, you guys are taking care of yourself. I'm not worried about the jurors you bring in because I know they're taking care of themselves. What I can see already is that it is not fair. And great, like some people come off with exposure, they feel like it's a success. Great, yeah, that's inevitable. Some people win $200,000. I'm sure they feel like it was very successful. But there's a lesson about artistic value that it rubs me wrong. And all my suggestions are geared towards just saying this could be a moment to teach about the value of artistic labor, however you do it. And, I don't know, zone A, zone B, like whatever, that's probably wrong. But it's not wrong-headed to think about how to tweak this thing so artistic value on like a grassroots level, not like the few winners, but like just overall artistic value and what they bring to your community. Even the losers are bringing some value. And, not like everybody has to feel great. Like, no one's ever going to make a group of artists feel great. Like, it's just not going to happen. But you can have a group of artists all looking in thinking, wow, what a great program. This is really cool. This is about us, too.
Mm-hmm. So, just one question before we sort of close up. John, is there like a certain percentage that you're looking for in terms of artists being compensated, like for like travel and like shipping and all the rest, like that you're advocating for? Is it like 100%? Is it like, or is it something different?
I think that those numbers can be worked out. They're worked out by all institutions that have budgets and that bring artists in internationally. Because the ArtPrize is putting itself out as an international competition, that it's easy enough to consider those kinds of questions, and to allow artists to opt out. Like, I am not somebody who has a chip on my shoulder about wealthy artists. They exist. There are a lot of them. They can do stuff that I can't do, fine. And if their art is great, they should win. No big deal.
I mean, I just wonder, like, how you feel about, like, I don't know, say the Venice Biennale, because, for example, there, like, all the national pavilions are, like, specific locations where the pavilions are responsible for, in that particular case, like, all the individual locations are responsible for paying for the artist's expenses, whereas it's not the Biennale that, like, the Biennale is responsible for their own individual prizes.
Right. Each nation pays for its
exactly,
its contribution.
And so there's like, and in that sense too, you see like, there's an inequity there in terms of like what kind of resources a country has and this sort of thing. But like, to my mind, I guess I feel like, in the same way that the Venice Biennale is sort of a hood for a lot of different locations, and those locations take care of artists in different ways, like, so is ArtPrize for, like, it's a hood for, a lot of different locations. I wish you wouldn't laugh after, I make a point.
It makes them sound like they're a bunch of thugs.
No, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about
hood. Sorry, it was a hood that was making you laugh.
But seriously, John,
I wasn't laughing at you. But there's an expectation that nations are going to take care of their citizens, that they're going to take care of their artists, right? So I don't worry as much about, is the American Pavilion really reimbursing the artists involved? Yeah, because it's the modern, like, we're they're being taken care of. They're really, the value that they're getting out of it is coming back to them. This is something different. This is inside our
nation. The value that's being put in is coming back to them because it's a larger venue, reaching a certain audience.
Do you think the South Koreans aren't paying for the artists to come to Venice?
No, absolutely they are. I'm just wondering, like.
So we know that, like, most of the artists 1,500 artists going to these venues in Grand Rapids are not being funded by their governments. You know, like, the deal that Grand Rapids is striking is not with other governments to, like, come in and, like, fund their cities. There is no New York pavilion. There is no Detroit pavilion. There's, Joe's Pub. There's Grimm's Park. There's Don's Pharmacy, right? And, like, there's no sense in my mind, and there's, like, the Grand Rapids, Museum of Modern Art, right? So, like, the Grand Rapids Museum of Art, I would accept,
the Venice Biennale has all sorts of, like, independent, like, auxiliary pavilions where people, like, self-fund and bring themselves there. So, like, like, I guess I'm just saying that, like, nobody is, like, accusing the Venice Biennale of being, like, totally horrible to artists. And I feel like while they're not, this obviously is not the same thing, that there's an expectation there that is inconsistent with the expectations that we have of international art venues that already exist.
No, I disagree. I think we know that it's very different. To say that, like, there aren't artists self-funding or there aren't artists being exploited in those situations would be naive. On the other hand, we're talking about, a regional competition that's putting out the world's biggest purse and calling artists to come. And it's unseemly, and, like, this, I've said it again and again, it's unseemly because it's like throwing cake to the crowd and laughing at them while they scramble. I mean, it's really, I think, incumbent on the ArtPrize, on building this thing so it's seemly. So, because, like, there's all kinds of dignity involved in being invited to the Biennale. There's all kinds of dignity being invited to Miami. And, yeah, sure, it might cover artists who are self-funding. It might cover all kinds of vanity projects. It might cover people really getting exploited. But, in fact, the dignity is real. And I want that at Grand Rapids. I want them to build themselves as a regional power. I think that's great. I want to point to them the way I point to Kohler, the way, I point to any other wonderful regional art center. And I don't want them to be something they're not. I don't want them to, like, get rid of the public vote. I think they should keep it. I don't want them to get rid of the open call. I think people should be able to opt out if they want to self-fund, like, all these things. Like, but I want people to feel like artists' labor is valuable and that they should be treated with dignity. And that, you can't just, like, ring a bell and get 1,500 artists. That you should be expected to... I mean, I got mad at Obama for the design poster. That turned me off. I don't like that expectation wherever it comes from.
Okay, well, I think we should wrap up since it's now been like an hour and a half. So
anybody's still watching. It's obviously interesting because it's really great. I'm glad there's a prize.
I
hope I will.
And frankly, I mean, I know that we're like, kind of failing to come to consensus. I mean, because, and part of that is, like I said, it's always going to be, we're always going to reassess things, and it's going to keep evolving. And I'm not going to make, like, some giant policy change about how we do things, like, on the spot in the middle of an interview, obviously. But but I think that you're bringing up some really good points, and we've said this over and over again, and it's kind of like a mantra of ours, is that driving this kind of discussion and debate is a big reason for why we're doing this. And so the fact that issue, that we can do something to spur that the debate around that issue, I think is really great. And the other thing that I would just kind of end with is that some artists are given honorariums, some venue, but it's dependent on their venue. So for the venues that want to work with artists that require that, they're being creative and inventive and figuring out how to raise funds and to do that on their own. So it's, I guess the point that I'm trying to make there is it's not that it's a need that's not being met, because it is being met, but like so many things, there's a bunch of different individual experiences happening, and there's people approaching it in different ways. And so there's kind of a subset of artists that are like have these certain conditions and need a certain amount of support before they'll be involved, just because that's where they are in their career. And then there are other artists who just love the idea of experimenting with it and want to try something new and want to do something in public with a ton of people. And they're totally happy to figure out funding solutions for themselves. And we're happy to allow both. And I think that if there's a situation where some sort of end of that spectrum were beginning to like fade or like fall off, we would see that as a problem and something that we need to address. But as it stands, both of those things are happening, and so yeah. Anyway, so we're working with partners and sponsors and institutions to figure out, how artists with projects that are really ambitious, that are really difficult to self-fund, can get the resources that they need.
Awesome.
Great.
Thanks so much for hosting this, Patty, and Kevin for inviting me to talk with you.
Okay, thanks so much, guys.